Hey everybody, this is Marina, your podcast host at Unbossed. Here we go. At Unbossed, I interview amazing women in Chicago. There is so much woman power in this city that I want to provide these women a platform to tell their story. Please connect with us and please consider supporting by sharing, liking, commenting the podcast. Tell all your Netflix friends and family about it. Submit a recommendation for a guest, subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and donate by clicking on the anchor link and help me continue to make great episodes. I hope you enjoy and welcome to the show. Gabi Klapman is co-founder and CEO at Trvlpage, spelled Trvlpage, a travel-based social media app where you can share your travel experiences and plan a trip with your trusted network's recommendations. She is an avid traveler who spent 5 months post-college traveling Southeast Asia and South Africa, backpacking, and sometimes by herself. She studied marketing at the University of Illinois and attended Full Stack Academy, where she learned software development and became a software engineer. Before Trvlpage, she worked as a developer at Jellyvision. She's been a sole developer and CEO at Trvlpage since 2019. Gabi was super kind to share the code UNBOSSED to bypass the waitlist for Trvlpage. So gain access to Trvlpage now by using the code UNBOSSED. Welcome, Gabi. And for everyone listening to this episode, Gabi was able to give us a code, UNBOSSED, to bypass the waitlist for Trvlpage. So head up to Trvlpage and download the app today. Use the code UNBOSSED to bypass waitlist. Hey everybody, I am Marina, your podcast host at Unbossed. Today, my guest and friend is Gabi Klapman, CEO and co-founder at Trvlpage. Welcome, Gabi.
Thanks for having me.
So, do you want to talk about how we met? So, because we've known each other for a few years, and so I'm gonna throw it a little bit different this time for a quick second. I want to hear from my guests and see what did you think of me when we met, and tell the story of how we met.
Yeah, so I was working at a company called Jellyvision, a great company here in Chicago. And I remember you joined as the director of data, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And so you had to give an intro speech at one of our stand-up meetings with all of tech. And I remember you told a couple just cheesy but fun jokes. And I'm like, this woman is amazing. First of all, so impressive that you're a director of data. Clearly I could tell you were so qualified and I was so inspired by you, but also you showed this personable, fun side. So I definitely was looking up to you for a while. Secretly.
Well, I'm really glad that was the impression. And for people that don't know stand-up, it's funny because I told the joke at a stand-up, which, thinking about it and not saying it out loud, I was I did take a class of stand-up comedy. I'm really bad at telling jokes. Anybody that was at the stand-up meeting can testify to this. But I try to loosen up the audience. And I was like, oh, this is going to be boring and I need to make it a little bit more fun. So how about I tell some cheesy jokes about data while I introduce myself? And that was kind of my thought behind it.
It was perfect.
And I was so impressed with you. I remember, obviously, there are not that many women in tech. And I was so glad to see women like you doing software development. Did you go to the Dev program through Jellyvision?
No, so I attended a boot camp before I came to Jellyvision. And then Jellyvision was recruiting at my boot camp, and I got lucky and got a position, and the rest is history.
Perfect. And I would love to talk to you about your dev experience and perhaps opportunities for other people around that. But I want to tell my audience first and foremost, Gabi one day I heard Gabi was leaving the company at some point, and we had few interactions, but we were working in a different team. And you told me you were like, I am starting my own company. And I was like, what? That's so cool. I love it. I was super supportive and super impressed about the audacity and also the courage that it takes to quit your job and start your own company, which is amazing, and we'll go into that later. But I wanted to tell you that I'm always a super fan of women that decide to choose their own path and do their own thing.
Oh, thank you. It's a roller coaster for sure, but I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah. And so tell us a story about Gabi. Who were you maybe growing up? Did you grow up in Chicago area? And what is maybe a story that is, thinking back, and maybe memorable for you?
Yeah. So I did grow up in the Chicago area. I grew up in Oak Park, which is just west of the city. Thinking back about memorable stories, I guess
Yeah.
one
Were
I
you
do.
artistic? Were you more scientific? Or what were you like growing up?
Yeah. So growing up, I was definitely always outgoing. I had a lot of, always social, but yeah, independent. Um, the story that came to mind is in fifth or sixth, probably going into sixth grade. I started my first business. And so I feel like I kind of had this entrepreneur spirit in me from very young. And that business was a summer camp for young girls. So we would, recruit around the neighborhood and then create a schedule, and they'd come over maybe for an hour or two twice a week. And I think it's just funny looking back that I had started a business at such a young age, and it kind of led me to where I am today. I will say that. Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
What was that like? What was it like for you? Did you just come up with it? Were you encouraged by somebody? Were you trying to solve a problem for yourself? What was the experience?
I can't remember specifically. I know my parents were always very supportive of me trying new things and being adventurous, and so I think just more of the idea of creating a business sounded intriguing, using creativity and also organization skills. I don't think there was anything super anything that really drew me into these kids need a camp. It was more so us trying to convince parents to let us trust us with their kids, because we were probably only 10. But yeah.
Were you intended to make money out of it, or were you looking for a summer job? Is that what sparked this?
We did make some money, and I I remember thinking it was a lot of money, even though it was probably only $40 per parent for the whole summer. But I think the motivation for me personally was more so just the idea of running a successful business and having, I guess you could say successful because it worked out, but having parents trust me, and the whole planning side of it. And I remember I loved creating those schedules and just seeing it executed. That was probably the biggest factor for me.
That is really cool. And also you said sixth grade, right? Like fifth or sixth grade. It's
Something like that.
Yeah. How did you know that you were creating a business? Because you keep saying I wanted to create a business. But where did you learn that? How did you know you were creating a business versus just trying to make some money for the summer?
I guess at that point it felt different. I had some babysitting gigs. I probably wasn't saying in fifth or sixth grade, here I am, I'm creating a business, I'm coming up with a business plan. It was it was not that at all. It was very basic, and but it did feel a lot different than, hey, I'm just trying to make the $10 that I get for babysitting these kids for a couple hours. It felt like I was getting to decide how it was run, and I just remember feeling very empowered for at that time for running it. And also at the same time, my dad had explored different small businesses. He never dove in and had that be his full-time career, but I saw him on the side trying to, sell these fun cards to Starbucks and stuff like that. So I had been exposed to it. So I think that probably contributed as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I guess what was your progression into tech? Perhaps it's not a traditional story for, as we know, girls. Well, it didn't used to be in the last few decades or so. And so what was your transition into tech?
Yeah, so that one was much more unexpected. I would say I excuse me, looking back, I don't think I ever would have predicted that I would become a developer. Continuing through high school, I still was social and involved in sports, and I was good at school, but I never felt smart. I had an older brother who was 2 years older, and he was a genius. He just could do every subject, and it felt so natural to him. So it was kind of like, all right, he's the smart one, and I'm the athletic one, and that's just how it is. And if there's computer problems, you go to the boys in the family. So I definitely never expected to go into development, and I feel really lucky that I stumbled upon it. When I was choosing my major in college, I decided on marketing, and not a single person brought up development. It was not even
same.
Yeah, not even a thought. And I'm sure that's really common for other females because it's not the standard. And luckily, as part of the business school, you had to take a CS for business majors. And I was intrigued by it. And I still continued with my marketing career because I really liked marketing. But it wasn't until after college that I started taking some side classes, online classes. And actually those classes were more like HTML, CSS, because I still didn't believe I could do the real behind the scenes back end development. I still was like, all right, maybe I can do the styling. That seems in my realm. But the more I learned, the more I wanted to know, and I started doing a little JavaScript, and I was like, wait, I actually like this better. And started going to night classes, and I fell in love, and it's not as scary as I thought it would be. So definitely, if you're out there and thinking about a career in development, I think the initial setup and process of getting started is a lot, but once you're past that, it is so much easier than it looks.
Yeah, absolutely. And so did you graduate with your marketing degree in the end?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you were doing those classes, those CS classes on the side kind of thing? Yeah.
Yep, just nights, weekends, seminars, online classes, wherever it could fit in the time.
Yeah, and then what? And then what was your first job? What was your first job experience out of college?
Yeah, so out of college, I worked in marketing. I was working at a data-focused digital advertising firm. Really liking it, but it was at a certain point. I think it was when I was taking that night class, and the night class was 4 days a week, 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. And I worked a very long day, and I was so excited to go to class.
Yeah,
okay, this is probably a sign that development might be for me.
What was do you remember the class? Were you just taking it at Urbana, University of Illinois, or were you just doing it somewhere else?
Oh, this night class was through Full Stack Academy, which is where I ended up doing the actual full-time boot camp and switching into development.
Nice. So you were doing marketing, and then when did you do you did the boot camp at Full Stack Academy in 2017, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nice. But you've been working at marketing in the meantime. You were working as an account manager, as a sales coordinator at Conversant for a little bit. How did you convince? So, well, first of all, for people that they're trying to figure it out, how did you decided to quit your job and then go full-time on learning mode again? Were you have some money saved up, or what was your plan behind that?
Yeah, so I did have some money saved up, and also you have to make sacrifices. So I had to move back in with my parents, which was so exciting. I'm very lucky to have parents that welcomed me back in the home. So, but yeah, I think when making a big career switch, you definitely have to think about what lifestyle changes am I going to have to make this happen. Similarly, when I quit my job to start Trvlpage, I was back with my parents again. So aren't they so lucky to have me? Just keep coming back.
That is awesome. And I can see that. I mean, you're following your dreams. And how did that go with your parents? You're like, well, mom, dad, coming home?
I mean, I think they're always, the door is always open at my parents' house. I'm sure they probably were sick of me secretly, but for switching into software development, they were very supportive because they knew this would be a good life skill to have, and you know, the job market obviously huge and growing. It was definitely a different story when it came to starting my own business.
Oh, really?
Different conversations there.
Okay, let's a pin on that. I want to hear that conversation. But between the Full Stack Academy and actually, let me close the loop on the Dev Bootcamp. How did you find out about the bootcamp? And you're probably going to tell me through your NAT class, right? You found out that it was a good, okay. And then what made you choose the bootcamp instead of like going to college and getting a CS degree, for example?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I don't even know if I considered going back. I think just the price tag on a college education is obviously a lot bigger, and the time. I had read really good reviews and talked to people who had been to full stack and got a job right after, and felt that it totally prepared them for a career in software development. So I think it was pretty clear that a bootcamp was the correct route for me. Obviously, there's different for everyone, and where I was in life, it just was the right choice for me.
Yeah, of course. And for people that do not know what a bootcamp is, can you give us like a rundown of like how long is it? Like generally, like if you know about general costs of the bootcamp and maybe the programming that they trained you on.
Yeah, so there's different boot camps across the nation, you know, across the world. The one I went to was Full Stack Academy. I definitely recommend it. This one was a 1 month at home portion and then 3 months in class. And when you're in class, you are, you know, committing as much time as you can to it. Obviously, there's just normal class hours, the like 8 to 5. But a lot of people stay after and work on, there's weekend seminars, there's all of that. So really, I put my life on hold for about 4 months and just committed as much time as I could because I wanted to get the most out of the experience. As far as curriculum goes, this one was specifically JavaScript focused. So the first month of at home, you're learning the language itself. And then the first half of the in-class portion is workshops. So each day you're paired with someone else, and you're learning a specific component of development. So whether it's databases or servers or whatever it might be. And you do hands-on workshop on whatever you're learning. And then on the last portion is project-based. And there's 3 projects, with the last one being your capstone, and that is create whatever you want with a group of 3 to 4 people. And that's something that you can show employers and kind of use as something to showcase. As far as cost, though, I will say they can be very expensive. I think they range between like 10 and 18 grand. Being a female is, you can get some discounts, which is nice. And also there's some programs where you don't have to pay it back until after you have a job. So definitely look into those options if you are a female.
Nice. Beautiful. Thank you. What was your capstone project about?
My capstone project was called Phantom Racer, and it was a running app. And so you could run a route, and then if your friend wanted to run the same route later and feel like they're racing against you, they could see where you went, and it would tell them where to turn, and then there'd be like a sound of like, oh, Gabby's catching up to you, and make it feel like you're actually running against them.
That is awesome. I would love to have that, actually. That's really good.
Yeah, I wonder if it still works. I don't really remember what state we left it in, but
That's pretty good. That is so cool. Well, thanks for that. I think about boot camps as it's still the price for somebody, you know, who doesn't have much is still pretty steep. Nowadays there are loans you can take out for boot camp. There's employers sponsor boot camps in which you get hired by one of the companies that are on the boot camps like cohort kind of thing, like that they sponsored specific people to get the skills developed. So there are a lot of opportunities for people who are thinking about switching to software development and they don't want to go back to college specifically. You can just take up 3 months 4 months boot camp and really get your foot in the door, which is amazing. As a hiring manager, I can tell that, you know, any entry level, confirm this, but any entry level software developer program can start, you know, close to 100K, so 90 something. Would you say that's true?
Like program?
Entry level, like an entry level position for software development.
Oh yeah.
Where do you think you if you had to hire somebody, where do you think you'll land nowadays? Between 80 and 90, between 80 and 100, depending on where they went?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. I would definitely need to do more research on that. I mean, I think it really depends on the company, and I've seen quite a range. So yeah, I feel like I can't speak too well on that point, but definitely a solid salary and like huge opportunity for growth.
And yeah, and I guess what I'm trying to pay is like if you get a job right after the bootcamp, it could pay for itself. Easily in 1 year or less. So
yes, and that's what I think is so great about the programs where you pay back once you have the job, because my salary was a huge increase from a marketing position to a development position, and just, you know, it's almost like if you could live off the marketing position, you could live off the development position with a piece of it just going back to paying for the boot camp.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Yeah.
But I think what is super interesting also about you is that between graduating and finding your way through tech, you went to Africa.
Yeah, I spent 5 months, 3 months in Southeast Asia, 2 months in South Africa.
Wow. Is that the trip where you backpack across countries?
Yep. Mm-hmm. So Southeast Asia was backpacking, staying in hostels that are, I can't even think back to it. They're so gross, but you know, $5 a night, and making friends with whoever is staying at that hostel too. It's great. It was a great experience.
Were you? Do you want to tell me about like how did that come about, and were you by yourself or were you with a group? How did that work?
Yeah, I initially got into traveling when I was studying abroad, and I just got hooked. So I had thought about spending time traveling before work, but I didn't know if it was, you know, actually something I could make come to life. Because again, you know, a lot of these pieces, it's, you know, a lot of sacrifices, and also I was very fortunate to even have the option to make that happen. And so, anyways, kind of I thought I was going to take a job. Actually, it was interviewing. I had a couple offers or one offer, and I was like not crazy about it, but planning on taking it because that's what you need to do. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. And I remember I was like listening to a podcast or music and just thinking about like, all right, what am I going to look back in a couple years? Am I going to look back and say, I'm so glad I took that job, and I'm so glad it propelled me into my career? Or am I going to look back and say, oh, I'm so glad I spent time traveling and growing as a person? And I finally realized, you know, I would regret it if I didn't do this. So I decided to say no to the job. I actually ended up getting a better one after, but it was scary to say you know, reject that solid job with a paycheck, and kind of feel like all my friends were starting these amazing careers, and here I was just like traveling. Like, I definitely felt like I was unaccomplished for doing that. But looking back, I mean, I grew so much as a person when I was backpacking, especially because I did do most of it solo, especially the Southeast Asia part. And so there was a lot of figure it out moments. I mean, I got my purse stolen when I was out there, and that was a big figure it out moment. But all these little things just make you grow as a person. And so definitely glad I took that route.
That is really cool story. And at the same time, I'm like, why Southeast Asia? Why South Africa? How did you get there?
Um, I That's a great question. I'm not sure how I got there. I know one of my really good friends is from Indonesia, and so I know she had talked a lot about it, and I actually made a stop to her house when I was over there, so I think that might have played a role in it. And I know I didn't want to do Europe because I had already studied abroad there. So to be honest, it's looking back, I'm like, how did I make such a big decision? As far as South Africa, I was thinking about going some other places in Africa, but safety kind of became a little bit of a concern there, and so ended up deciding on South Africa because the program I was in just felt the safest there.
Yeah. What was the program that you went with to do this?
It's called African Impact,
Okay.
and so we worked with the oh gosh, what's it called? There's the little towns on the outskirts of Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked with some of the kids there, trying to work with them in a very sustainable way.
How did you find this program?
Just Google, good old Google, looking around, looking at reviews, talking to the program manager.
Nice. So you just one day you decided to, you know what? I'm gonna go to Africa, and then when you were there, you're like, I don't want to go home yet. Let me keep going.
No, I came home in my designated time, but I mean, it's definitely been something that, like, I say it so easy now, but it was years and years of different experiences adding up to what ended up having that whole trip happen.
Best lessons you learned while traveling solo as a woman in a place that you don't speak the language.
Oh gosh, that was a great question. Best lessons. One would be, I mean, safety. Number one is always be aware of your surroundings. Read articles and books about scams. I think that's just, as a woman traveling, you want to be prepared. But something else I think just in general as a traveler is be open-minded and say hi to people, like especially in hostels and areas where people are open to meeting others. You never know who you're going to meet, and you'll befriend people that you probably would never cross paths with in a normal life, which is really cool.
Nice. Thank you. And any of those friendships still remain the same? Still remain today?
I do have one friend from South Africa who I visited 2 or 3 years ago. She lives in Scotland, and we've kept in touch, and so hoping to see her again soon.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a memory that you can share about your trip that will always remain with you?
So there was a lot of great memories. I think the one memory, and this is not like the memory that people are always expecting to hear, but it is that story about when I got my purse stolen. Because
what happened?
So I had a over-the-shoulder purse with a flap that went over the main part and a buckle, and like it's like no one's pickpocketing me. And it was my first night in Vietnam, and I was walking back, and a motorbike came and cut it off me, so full speed, other direction. And I had looked up so many scams and so many different things, and I had never heard about this. So all of a sudden, my phone, which was my only camera, money, credit cards. Luckily, I had a backup credit card in my hostel and my passport there. But I still had over half the trip left, and I was missing a lot of items. But I just remember thinking, all right, like, this cannot ruin my trip. I need to think about what actions I need to take. Contacting people, canceling credit cards. I went and reported it missing at the police station, which was a whole other experience. Won't get into that. But just kind of, the perspective of being like, I have to make this work. And I remembered it was being really scared. Had just gotten to Vietnam, so I felt very alone. And I was like, it's best for me to stay in a hotel for 2 nights or whatever it might be. I think there's $30 there, but that felt like, whoa, like I am spending big bucks
Yeah.
tonight. But I was like, no, for my emotional side, like I need to regroup. I need to read a book, and I need to not let this, change my trip. Um, so I think that was definitely something that stood out, and I feel like tested me as a human.
Oh, that's beautiful. But you had great awareness to just not let it affect your trip.
I remember my mom was like, just come home. Just come home. And I was like, yeah, I'm so alone here and it's so hot and I don't have anything and I didn't have cash and I was trying to go to the bank and then the bank was closed. And I remember walking, through these busy streets and just holding my passport, my credit card and being like, this is all I have. I have no one here. And if this gets stolen, like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I probably would have come home, but, I am so glad that I did not.
So why didn't you go home?
I mean, it's just like it felt like a once in a lifetime experience that I didn't want to give up on. So
Yeah, awesome. Traveling could be a building and a breaking
mm-hmm,
of a
mm-hmm.
person, and I'm glad it built you.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, I definitely understand traveling can be a struggle, but how much you can learn and grow and see. It's yeah, it's amazing to meet people around the world.
One more question about this. What was the thing that you learned about yourself that surprised you the most?
The thing that I learned about myself, just like from the travels.
Yeah, that surprised you the most. You ever come and be like, wow, I didn't know I could do that. I did it.
Um, I don't just maybe like the independence and the figure it out and not relying on other people. I think that was probably the biggest thing.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that about your travels. It's so awesome that you did that. And I'm so impressed because I love people that travel, and I'm a huge traveler, or used to be pre-COVID, I guess. And I usually do take trips by myself too. Whenever I feel like if somebody wants to come, they're welcome to come. But if not, I'll still go. And
I love that. Yeah, make it happen.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so you graduated your boot camp. You found the television was hired, and you got hired finally in your software developer dream job at this point. You've been working towards that, right? And then what happened?
Yeah, so I actually was a support engineer first at Jellyvision, which was basically, I mean, as you know, but for those that don't know, kind of the first stop when something goes wrong. So whether it's a bug or there's something wrong with the cloud system you have in place or whatever it is, and a lot of it is, you know, uh, handing it off to the right team and communicating with the right teams. So that was my first job, which I learned a ton there. Obviously, you have to kind of learn a little bit of everything. And then I transitioned into a software developer on one of the teams specifically that I had the most interest in. And so I already forgot your question, but that was the next thing that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you were working towards being a software developer, right? And so you got your job, you got into these roles, and then I'm trying to get you lined up to talk to me about like how did you decide to again quit that job and start Trvlpage.
Yeah. So working as a software developer, I again loved it. I mean, I loved Jellyvision. I loved the team. I loved the work I was doing, and I remember I was always challenging myself to do a new ticket and try to take on a bigger challenge. But this kind of goes back to the boot camp. So when I first went to the boot camp, the first thing they said was, you should start a side project that you're really passionate about. Because if you're really passionate about it, you're going to want to work on it. And that's where I started Trvlpage. And I had thought about pursuing Trvlpage after, but obviously I didn't have the money or the experience, and so that was kind of out of the question. And so worked at Jellyvision, but always had this in the back of my head and kept talking to people, and it would come up in conversation. And I was listening to a bunch of these startup podcasts, and again, kind of the same thing. The more I talked about it, the more I heard. I started to really consider switching, and obviously I had a bunch of conversations before I made the actual leap, but it was similar to my thought process when it came to traveling of, if I look back in 5-10 years, am I gonna regret not trying to make this happen?
And the answer was obviously yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's such a cool story. How did it, you were telling us that earlier, that the second time now that you came home to your parents, they were like, are you
Yeah.
you just started your career as a software developer, what's happening?
Right. Yeah. So I think my dad was a lot more supportive. He has, again, like I mentioned, that creative side and kind of like a little bit of entrepreneur spirit. And my mom has been in her job for, I mean, she's retired now, but her whole career, same job, same didn't move.
Same company,
yeah, same everything. And so she was like, "What? You found this? You're in your dream job. You found this amazing company. Like, what are you doing? This is a huge risk." And I kind of had to be like, I'm an adult now, and I'm going to do it, and I hope you can support me. And I was working. I actually ended up teaching at the boot camp that I went to at night classes, so that I had some income. And so I think that kind of having a side job that also I still was able to, continue to work on development. I think that made her feel a little bit better. But it's definitely been a wild ride, and I think she's starting to come around to it.
Nice. That's awesome. And so you started Trvlpage, and I remember you were so convinced about the concept. Can you tell us about what is Trvlpage? What are you all about? What is your vision for the company?
Yeah. So really, the problem that we're solving is two-sided. And first is a place to remember and share your travel experiences. So on one hand, think about all these amazing experiences you have, or not so amazing. And slowly over the years, I started losing those memories. And then on the other side with that, I got asked so much for recommendations, and I wanted to be helpful and create a list, but it took a while to find pictures in Google Places. So being able to share your travel experiences and remember your travel experiences was one side. And then the other is planning a trip with your network's recommendations. So really, right now, you can either go on the internet and find strangers' recommendations, which aren't nearly as valuable, or bother your friends and burden them to create a list and try to have conversations with them, which is obviously much more time and energy consuming. And so I really wanted a place that was easy to search for your network's recommendations. And so the core of it has kind of remained the same, of solving those two problems. The product itself has changed so much. I mean, you pointed out that I knew exactly the problem I was solving, but I thought I knew exactly how I was going to solve it. I remember I was meeting with another founder, and I had my list of all the features I was going to implement. I'm like, hey, this is what's going to happen. He's like, you can delete that list because you don't know what you're building yet. You need to talk to your users. You need to take it step by step, and you need to figure it out. And that was a big awakening that I definitely needed to hear, because it's true. Like, the people I've talked to have completely changed the product, and 75% of it is just based on other people's suggestions and opinions.
Nice. That's a great way to build
a product that sticks and works, because you're not building, I mean, you could be the solo user, but I'm sure that's not what you want, right?
Just build a product for myself.
You could build it for yourself, but hopefully, we're building it so that other people use it as well. And so listening to your users is definitely step one, even before sometimes you even touch a line of code, like they
Definitely. Yeah.
said. How has it been, the transition between being a software developer and actually continuing to be a software developer, but also starting a company for you?
Yeah, it's been quite the transition. Being the CEO of a company means wearing, especially at this stage where it's a very small team, it means wearing a bunch of hats and just learning everything that needs to be done, stepping out of your comfort zone in so many ways, but then also managing it with being that developer. I mean, I'm the sole developer of Trvlpage, so balancing my time between making improvements on the application side and then also doing the CEO side of fundraising and also the marketing side and the networking side and all the rest that goes into running a business. So it's been a lot more, even more than I thought it was going to be, which I thought it was going to be a lot. So. But it's good. I have a really strong support system, and if you're thinking about listening and thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, 1871 in Chicago and the program Pyros are both amazing and really helpful to have other entrepreneurs going through the same journey.
What is Pyros? I don't think I've heard about it yet.
Yeah, so Pyros is programming within 1871. It's run by Rachel Federborn, I think is her last name. And basically it's going into it, it's like, what are all the things I need to know that I don't know I need to know when running a business? So there's legal workshops, there's software workshops, there's all different workshops. There's also ways that founders can connect with each other and just vent. And so it's really programming, but more.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. How is Trvlpage doing?
Yeah, so it's an exciting time that we're talking, because we just relaunched our new version in the App Store, and so we've gotten a lot of really good feedback. We have implemented its all new designs. I should take a step back here and say we initially launched in July of 2020, kind of a beta version. It was an open beta because we did want to see how word of mouth worked, and we wanted to test the growth. That version was designed by me, which is a non-designer. And it was quite colorful, quite an interesting look. Needed a lot of improvements, which over the past year, again, continuing to listen to users and continuing to iterate on the product. And one of the biggest things was an overhaul in the designs. And so that was kind of a big focus of ours the last couple months, as well as some functionality improvements. And then we were able to relaunch, I think, last week. And so we've gotten great feedback from both our old users, and we've started to see this word of mouth grow. Yeah.
Awesome. How many users are you projecting to have here after the relaunch? What are you thinking? So you have a goal, maybe?
We are still operating on a smaller scale, so we have a little over 400 users, primarily from organic channels, word of mouth, all of that. And so we're fundraising right now. And so with a fundraising budget, we'll be able to both expand our team, which will help us grow, and then spend money on marketing. So as far as specific numbers, it really depends on when we're able to get the fundraising to be able to step on the gas to grow our user base. I can pull up some specific numbers. Obviously these are all goals, and so really by the end of the year, we're looking to be in the tens of thousands.
Nice.
We have high goals and low goals, so 100,000 would be an amazing high goal, but tens of thousands for sure as a more lower realistic goal.
Okay. Nice. How has it been like seeing leaders throughout your career and now becoming a leader? What would you say have you learned, and things that maybe you saw that you did not want to repeat?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of great role models, and I think especially at Jellyvision, there was a lot of leaders that I really looked up to. I mean, the CEO, Amanda, another female who's just she's a badass female. How can I say that on this? She was definitely an inspiration for me, because I think a lot of the pieces that she has in being a leader are things that I lack. I'm a big people pleaser, and I want to make everyone happy, and sometimes you can't do that as CEO. You have to make decisions that are gonna move your business forward, and not everyone's gonna be happy about everything. You being another one that I looked up to.
Thank you. You don't have
Yeah.
to say that just for the
No, it's so true though. It's true. I think that was probably the biggest eye opener was you have to make decisions that not everyone's going to be happy with.
Yep, that is an absolute truth statement. Not to say that we cannot work together, even if we're not all happy about the decisions. I think the way I think about it is, what is that phrasing? Disagree, but move forward together. Disagree, but
agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree, but still move forward together.
Yeah,
right? Like
definitely.
let's test it out, and if it doesn't work, I'll have the right to say I told you so. Now let's try my idea.
Yeah.
I'll commit. Oh, disagree and commit. Disagree, but we still commit to move forward and try it out. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Gabi, believe it or not, we're at the end of our time.
Oh my gosh, that flew by.
I know. It kind of always does. But I have a few more lasting questions for you. And being a young woman, a young leader, a person who is starting their own company, and you're going to have employees and soon and things like that. Have you given any thought about the future of work and what it means with COVID? And, as you hire people, like what type of trends or what type of things that you're attracted to that will determine what the future of work could look like for newer generations?
Yeah, so obviously the biggest trend is, where are people going to work? Is it work from home? Is it work from the office?
Is it work from Vietnam?
Yeah. So ironically, as much as I love to travel, I really love the in-office atmosphere, and I feel like for positions that I've been in where collaboration and learning from others has been a big part of it, being able to be in person with them and learn directly has made me grow and learn even faster. But I think as, the future of work is employees have the last say, and there's companies that will offer people what they want, and so making sure you're finding the correct balance of work from home, work in person in office, or whatever it might be, but listening to employees and knowing that people can switch easily, and there's a lot of opportunities out there. So
nice. Thank you. What is one thing we don't know about you?
One thing you don't know about me? Wow, that's a hard question. Throw the hard one.
I'm sure there's a lot that I don't know and that I don't want to know. But what is one thing that I do want to know about you that you haven't shared yet?
What is one thing I do want to know? I guess, I'll throw out that speaking is one of my biggest weaknesses, and so this right here, I am facing a big fear, and definitely something I'm working on. And so I'm happy that I feel this went okay. Yeah.
You're doing amazing. So I
Thank you.
would have never, I couldn't tell that you were really scared. So this is really good. What is a book you have gifted the most, or is one of your favorite books that you can recommend to our audience?
Book. So one that I read a lot, kind of in my younger 20s. I don't know how old the audience is, but I read this book I think 3 times. It's called The Defining Decade.
Okay.
And it talks about your career and your life and your body as, a female. I think it's focused more on females throughout your 20s. And so I think that, especially as I talk about a lot of these big shifts in my life, that book was really instrumental.
Wow. Okay, beautiful. We'll have to read that for sure. What is a book you would write?
Oh, a book I would write. Another weakness of mine. Not a great writer. So I feel like a book I would write would be very list oriented, something along those lines, because that's just how my brain works. So maybe like top 10 this, top 10 that of, kind of based on life experiences I had, whether it's traveling solo or switching careers or whatever it might be.
Nice.
But I don't know if I'll ever write a book.
Okay, last question. Obviously, my podcast is called Unbossed. It's a funny story behind that because it's basically one of my teams, actually, at one of the places that we work together, had a Slack channel called Team Unbossed. And what that meant is basically that everybody on the team was in that channel except for me. And I know. And I discovered it because somebody was sharing a screen at some point, presenting something, and they just happened to just show that channel for a second. And I got a glimpse, and, they were obviously talking honestly about issues in the company or other information. And so I made it a mission of mine to be a leader that could increase transparency and increase trust. Right? Like, I never wanted them to shut down their channel or anything like that. I just wanted to be able for them to have those conversations with me or in front of me and really feel like they could be trusted, they could be listened to. But I asked my guests, what does it mean for you to be unbossed or to feel unbossed?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think a lot of it, let me think how to phrase this. I think a lot of it means being open to express, being open to express anything that you want and not keep things bottled up, and being able to make changes in companies and actually have an impact on things. So I would say that, especially when it comes to your Slack story, it's like, all right, people care enough to express these things, and obviously you wanted them to be expressed to everyone and so that we can make impacts, but it's like, all right, there is something about caring about changes and making progress, and I think that that's the core of it, is let's continue to improve. And I like what you said about being transparent and making it like it's okay that they have a Slack channel, but let's also say it's okay to discuss with me or whoever it might be.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Gabi. It's been a pleasure having you on, and I hope you come back to visit soon.
Thank you so much.
Woo! There you have it. I hope you liked this episode, and please don't forget to share, comment on the podcast link. Tell all your networks and friends and family about it. Submit a recommendation for guests at www.unbossed.io. Subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Donate by clicking on the anchor link and help me continue to make great episodes. You can find all this information on www.unbossed.io. See you next time. Oh, that was good.